generation will never be able to afford a house. We live in a renter society, and that's because democracy itself is a rental. Our leaders are more akin to temporary caretakers who are incentivized to drive the economy and drive the nation like a rental. They often think short-term versus long-term and prioritize private interests and that which appeals to the masses rather than what is right. As a result, it's so common and incentivized for leaders to make decisions that are detrimental to future generations, like creating the Federal Reserve and in 1971 going off the gold standard and creating inflationary monetary policies which essentially pad the pockets of the ultra-rich who have assets and destroy the prospects of future generations. All of these things created short-term benefit at tremendous long-term cost. Warren Buffett, the most famous investor out there, is most enthusiastic about investing in family-owned companies. Why? Because family-owned companies think generations ahead. If you're going to pass down a company to your kids and your kids' kids, you're going to do things that make it most sustainable and successful in the long run, not the short run. This is basically the argument for monarchy over democracy. Is a monarch is incentivized to think generations ahead and isn't pandering to the public opinion, while a president must pander for a vote and is incentivized to think 4 years ahead. Democracy at a large scale like in America is doomed to corruption. Even the founding fathers were wary of it. Plato and Socrates openly despised democracy, and yet we tout it around as the sacred god of the West, an undeniable good that we even go to war for. But look around. Democracy is a promise that's failed. Hans Hermann Hoppe, a prominent Austrian school economist and philosopher, provides a compelling critique of democracy in his books, especially Democracy, the God That Failed. He argues that much of the West's economic progress occurred not because of democracy, but in spite of it. Side note here, Hoppe is one of the writers who has inspired Javier Milei, Argentina's philosopher president, who is slashing bureaucracy and fixing the economy at record speed. But that's for another video. To understand the dominance of democracy in modern times, it's essential to look at a pivotal moment in history, World War I. Before the war, monarchies and aristocracies were the norm in Europe, with Austria-Hungary and other royal nations maintaining a centuries-old structure. Essentially, this world war was between liberal capitalist democracy, aka America, and the old monarchies of Europe, led by Austria-Hungary. And history is written by the victors. Never forget that. And if you think the media is full of lies, imagine our past. America, after winning the war, enforced a shift in global ideology. Monarchies were increasingly depicted as archaic and oppressive, while democracy was the champion of freedom and progress. Democracy was elevated to a moral imperative, and defending it became religious in nature, with people viewing democratic governance as inherently righteous and superior. But is it? Hoppe documented all of this in his short book, Aristocracy to Monarchy to Democracy, and I recommend everyone read